Well, it is now time for the Humanist Report's end of the year award ceremony. So the way this works is we have 4 categories. We have the badass moment of the year, we have the WTF moment of the year, and then we also name our scumbag of the year and MVP of the year, which is the most prestigious award. So anyone who gets this honor bestowed upon them should truly be very thankful. It's really important. So if you have a Nobel Peace Prize, you know, this is more important than that. So move that aside on your shelf. And, well, we don't have a trophy, but, you know, honor this more than anything, right? So the way it works is I will nominate 4 individuals or 4 moments in each of these categories, and then I will outsource the vote to the audience. So people on YouTube, Twitter, and Patreon will vote and decide which moment is their favorite or worst to them. So when it comes to our first award, this is the award for Badass Moment of the Year, and my first nomination is Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All launch. So I nominated this moment here as the Badass Moment of the Year because we've been pushing for this forever, and finally one politician decided to come out and do what the American people has been wanting. Introduce a bill that would create a Medicare for All system. Now, this is significant because a majority of the public now supports Medicare for All, so the time to act is now. And additionally, when Bernie Sanders introduced this legislation, it immediately garnered 16 co-sponsors. So this is a really big deal, and I couldn't not nominate this as a badass moment of the year. But of course, another moment that is on everyone's radar is the DNC speech we saw Numiki Konst give at the DNC Unity Reform Commission, where she absolutely lambasted the DNC for their lack of transparency and was ruthless. She said everything we wanted her to say. She spoke out on behalf of progressives, and I am incredibly thankful to her for that.
We're talking about close to $700 to $800 million between the joint fundraising agreement and the DNC being spent on 5 consultants. This is not a public outrage issue. The DNC chairs are upset, the officers are upset, and I don't know who's on the Budget and Finance Committee. I did go to the meeting. It was 15 minutes long, and there was a pie chart that was put on screen. Yeah. But I would, as a Democratic Party member of this commission, we have a duty, and people are watching us right now. The #1 issue I get asked out in the public by DNC members is, what are you going to do about the budget? It is absolutely ridiculous that we are going to keep a status quo system when it basically says we're going to continue to lose 1,200 seats. Let me describe what losing 1,200 seats looks like, or the remaining seats we have. If you're in Trump, yes, but let's break that down a little bit. If you're in Arizona and you have an ectopic pregnancy, you can't go to a Planned Parenthood clinic because it's gone, because that state legislature is lost. So you have to drive over to New Mexico. And if you bleed to death on the way, you know whose fault that is? In my mind, that's a Democratic Party that wasn't funded, recruiting candidates, investing in local parties. And that is our fault, because we have put that money to the top 5 consultants. And part of that has to go to the conflicts of interests. This is outrageous, it's unethical, it's bad governance, and frankly, it's fucking, corruption.
Another moment that I decided to nominate was the Yes Men and their decision to troll the DNC at Politicon. So what they did is they set up a fake event where they claimed to be part of the DNC, and one of them acted as an official to the DNC, and they did what the DNC should have done long ago. They said they're coming out in favor of universal basic income, Medicare for all, and they're going to start actually representing the people. Now, of course, this put the DNC in a really awkward position to where they actually had to say that they did not endorse these widely popular policies. Now, the DNC just ignored them, but that is typically the effect that the Yes Men had, and the fact that they did this to the DNC was great.
The Democratic Party is going to serve the people, once again, by fighting for what people need and want, and that therefore win elections. And to begin doing that, we're going to aim to outlaw corporate lobbying in government, and we're going to fight for the public financing of elections. That's what the DNC takeback is all about, because better just isn't good enough.
Now for my last nomination, I chose Sam Ronen's DNC speech, where basically he called out his opponents in the DNC chair race for copying him, because he really influenced that discussion. He talked about how the Democratic Party needed to be more transparent and equitable, and how they rigged the primary, and all of a sudden the other candidates were doing the same thing and saying the same things as Sam Ronan.
So I'm going to take the gloves off a little bit. You talked about truth to power. I was the one that started that in Houston. You want to talk about telling people that the DNC is the only people who get to decide the fate and future of millions of Americans. I believe you said each of you get to carry the weight and burden of 150,000 lives. That is an awesome responsibility. And it's one that goes and alludes to the superdelegates. Let's take that word, for example, superdelegates. It is greater than a regular delegate. That means that those superdelegates, I believe it was around 500 of them, had the same weight as 25% of the entire voting base. Millions of votes. That is undemocratic. You want to talk about truth to power? I am the only candidate at this table who has sworn to not take corporate and lobbyist money. That is not the way we do business in the Democratic Party. You want to talk about more truth to power? We need open primaries. We need open debates. We need to get rid of exclusivity. I've been hashing off every time somebody at this table has borrowed from my Houston and my Detroit and my Phoenix remarks and my interviews. Tom, I think, has adopted my policies. You want to talk about leadership? That is leadership, leading by example.
So, with that being said, you guys voted. Now, let's get to the results. So, on Twitter, with 467 total votes, the winner of my Twitter audience's badass moment of the year is Numiki Const's DNC speech. And in second place, we have Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All launch. In third place, we have the Yes Men. And in fourth place, we have Sam Ronan's DNC speech. Now on Patreon, with 61 total votes, the winner here is Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All launch. So we have a little bit of disagreement with the audience here. And in second place, now we have Numiki's DNC speech. In third place, we have the Yes Men, and in fourth place, with 8% of the vote, we have Sam Ronan's DNC speech. And now, for probably the most important poll on YouTube, with 13,000 total votes, the winner by a landslide is Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All launch. So, Yes Men came in second. Numiki Const's DNC speech came in third, and we have Sam Ronan in fourth place again. So when you look at the overall votes, by far the winner is Bernie Sanders' Medicare for All launch. So that is officially the Humanist Report's badass moment of 2017, and I couldn't agree more. This was really important to me. When I watched this speech, it brought tears to my eyes. I was personally touched by it. It was definitely badass, and in a year that overall politically was pretty shitty, this was the moment that we needed as progressives. So it was absolutely the right choice. I agree with the audience here.
It's an enormous honor to stand with each of you to say never again in America does anyone go bankrupt just because they got sick. Never. This has been a long fight, from Franklin Roosevelt, who wanted health care for all as part of Social Security, to Lyndon Johnson, who gave us both Medicare and Medicaid, to Ted Kennedy, who made sure that our children were insured with CHIP, and to Barack Obama, who helped build the game changer that gave millions of Americans who didn't have health care coverage new health care coverage. We are here today to take another step. We will not back down in our protection of the Affordable Care Act. We will defend it at every turn. But we will go further, and we will say that in this country, everyone gets a right to basic health care. That's what Medicare for All is all about, and that's why we're here. I want to say thank you to Bernie for all that you have done. I am honored to be part of this fight. I am honored to have a chance to stand up and say one more time, healthcare is a basic human right, and we fight for basic human rights. Thank you all.
Support this podcast by becoming a patron at patreon.com/Humanist Report.